All right, let's get started with space for work. So when you open the box, you'll notice there's 3 decks inside. And what I like to do is go ahead and separate the decks. So you'll see the situation cards are in the front. And I'll usually put those in front of me and then just put the creator cards and the guardian cards to either side. So as far as how to use space for work, we're going to take you through one of many examples of how to use it. But a great way to start is to start with a situation. And oftentimes at work, we have an idea of what the situation is, or maybe we have a little bit of a cloudy idea of what the situation is. But either way, it's super smart to just sit down with the situation cards and start to look through them. Just flip through them and see if you can locate the main thing that's going on, the main situation. It might be something like you have the hard thing to say, you feel judged, you're clashing with others. But just go ahead and try to find that main situation. And then, let's say it's, in this case, you need to say the hard thing, which I believe is a brown card. Yeah. And one thing I like to do when I get a sense of the situation is actually because situations are always related to other situations. They're not as easy to categorize. So I usually pick up a card, like in this case, you have to say the hard thing, and take a look at the back of it on the bottom. So on the back, on the bottom, the very bottom, where Mai is pointing, you'll see it says next cards. And that section actually refers to the most common related other situations that appear for the situation you're looking at. So it might be that you're clashing with people. In this case, feedback could go sideways, or you need to draw the line. And what I like to do is pull all those cards out and lay them right next to the main situation that I'm thinking about, just so I can see almost like a map of the main situation. Okay, so we're pulling out some of the related situations to you have to say the hard thing. And sometimes just laying these out in a little map next to each other can help you see the big picture. There may be other aspects of the situation that you're familiar with. Obviously, we can't know the precise one that you're in, but just flip through them and lay them all out next to each other so you can get the big picture here. So that's really step one. And then the second thing that we like to do is once you've got that situation laid out in front of you, and this can be a situation that happened to you in the past, or it could be a situation that you recognize is coming up. But either way, the next step is to just, let's pretend like it's something that happened to you, is to kind of close your eyes and imagine what happened in that situation. Who was active in that situation? What voices were active in that situation? Or if you're imagining the future, you can do the same thing. If you imagine that situation in the future, what voices inside of you are the first ones that might come up? And just start to go through them. See, when it's time to say the hard thing, is it an appeaser that shows up? Is it an insecure? What is it that shows up? And what do they say? What is it that shows up for you as you go through the cards of something that happened in the past or something that might be coming up? And what is it that part says? So let's say it's the appeaser here. And the appeaser may say something like, well, you've got to say the hard thing, so keep the peace. It's not a big deal. Again, these are things you imagined either happened in the past or you can imagine in the future. Or it could be an insecure saying, well, what if they think I'm being dramatic? It can be all sorts of things. Just imagine. And once you have that past situation in your mind's eye and or the future one that's coming up of what normally would happen in that situation, that's where you can go back to the situation card again, And you're going to want to just now take a look at what the card says to do. And in this case, there's a number of voices at the top. You can see the where the white dots are and the black dots are. And those are suggested voices, guardians and creators both, to consider tapping into as you look at the situation, again, either in reverse or in the future. So sometimes what I like to do is to pull those cards out. In this case, I think it says something like the advocate, the curious, the vulnerable, cards like that. And pull the cards out that it suggests. Now, obviously, you do not have to use our suggestion. There may be other voice cards, both creator and guardians, that are more appropriate for you. So feel free to just follow your own intuition. But that's the next steps, just so you can see the situation and a new set of voices inside of you, different leadership parts, different guardian parts. And I like to usually lay those out in a way where I can see, okay, these are the protective voices, these are the creative voices, and get a good sense of those suggestions. And just sometimes just laying these out and looking at them and reading them, both the description of the voice and also, what it feels like when they're there, when they're not there, how they lead, all things like that are really, really helpful as you're contemplating the situation that you're facing or that you faced. The next thing you want to do is to go back to the card again and look at the numeric steps, the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the card. And you want to follow these things. The first one says ground in observation. Just kind of observe. And that's, looking through some of these voices and to tap into the part that can briefly name just what's happening around you. And you can look at the creator and guardian cards to tap into that, and the ones that you've chosen or the ones that are listed, and just go through these steps like that, observing. The next one is to share without blame. And when you're doing this, you want to just take over the voice to hear from it. So in other words, if you're grounding in observation of that situation, of having to say the hard thing, it might be that, you tap into the appeaser and what the appeaser was doing when it was trying to have a hard conversation. And that's where you can be the appeaser. You can actually step into that part of yourself and talk out loud. This is what I was observing. This is what I was doing. And try to say it out loud as that part. If that's not comfortable for you, you can always write it down too on a piece of paper, on your phone. You can record yourself talking about the situation from that part. And I like to usually do it from multiple, both creator and guardian parts. So there might be a vulnerable part of you that you can speak to. What did you observe happening when you had to have that hard conversation, or when you will? What feels hard from the vulnerable's perspective? So just try to embody those. And then as you move into the next step, sharing those things without blaming anyone and kind of keeping the focus on your inner world, and going through that situation slowly, naming the needs that the different voices that you've selected have, and then making what would be the request that a lot of these different voices would have. And as the true nature, as the witness or the observer to this, as the CEO, what feels right decision-wise. And see if you can get to that place just by listening to everyone. That's where you have that mini board meeting, by listening to each one of the creator parts, the guardian parts, talk through the situation in that 1, 2, 3, 4 that's on the back of the card. And let's just say that you arrive at, your CEO arrives at a decision. The decision is, that you're not going to silence any of these voices. You're going to go into the conversation when you have to say the hard thing And you're going to lead with the intuitive and make sure that some of these other people show up too, and have that conversation from that part. That's when usually what I do is to broaden the board meeting a little bit so that you have your decision, but there's all these other elements to the situation. Things like, okay, maybe what happens if I clash with someone with that decision? What happens if the feedback goes sideways? And just keep talking it out or writing it out in as much as you can from these parts as you think through that decision across the guardians and the creators. So that's a very fast way that you can get started with using space for work and a specific situation that you've got in the past or in the future. But there's so many other ways that we're going to cover with you, both in this course, and we welcome you to check out our other master classes that really dig into how to have inner board meetings, how to have something we call crew meetings, which are very much similar to that, and in other aspects of your life besides work as well.